What's up, everyone? Coach Tony here. In this training, we're going to do a one-on-one training of the SAT and ACT test prep. It is currently 2024, and a lot of colleges are now officially back to test required. A lot of schools are now test optional, and there's still some schools that are test blind. So in this training, we're going to talk about, first off, what are those? What should we be doing? Number two is, under each scenario, how should we prepare for this? When should we be taking it? And at the end, we're going to go ahead and do a quick little one-on-one prep on how you guys can prepare for these exams. If it's your very first time joining, my name is Coach Tony. I've been helping families with the college admissions process for the last 16 years now, starting off as a former UC Berkeley admissions reader, understanding behind the scenes and seeing yes or no for students on the back end. And then my experience in test prep was for multiple years after that. I served as the head of high school. I started off as a tutor, ended up creating chat support, creating ton live classes for them, and I became the head high school liaison of a leading test prep company. They're global. They're still around as well too. I'll name drop them at the end for those who are interested in working with them as well too. But their stuff is really amazing, and that's kind of how I got really, really good at SAT and ACT test prep until 2020, when a lot of schools went test blind. I think most schools went test blind for a year, so schools started bringing it back, and now with the current landscape of admissions, we're seeing the new trend of people going back to test required as well too. So let's go ahead and prepare for that. Let me go ahead and share my screen really quick. I'll be taking notes here. Let me know if you guys can see my side here, right? So first off, let's talk about the different types, right? Types of colleges out there right now in respect to exams. So there's three types of schools out there. There's test required schools, there's test optional schools, and test blind schools, or the politically correct test free, right, is the other way you're calling it as well too. So when it comes to test required schools, right, you have to take the SAT. You have to take the SAT or the ACT. These are the ors. This is the same for both. There's no test that's better or worse for any college. However, there is a test that I do feel is better for you, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, right? But test required schools, you have to take the test and submit it. For test optional schools, this is the category with the most names. Some people call it test flexible. Some people call it test recommended, right? Tons and tons of names. Basically, if it's not required, it is not blind or free, it is test optional. You can submit, actually not take, you have to submit your score, right? Your ST or ACT. You can submit your ST or ACT as well too, and we'll talk about in what scenarios you should or shouldn't submit it as well. The biggest thing is it says that with optional, it won't hurt you to not send it. Is a thing, but there's a case where it would help you. So we'll talk about that as well. And there's a third batch of schools that are test blind or test free schools. For example, the big one is the UC system. UCs do not use test required or test optional. It's test free, test blind schools. Here is that you cannot submit your scores, your SAT or ACT or ACT, and if you do, they don't consider it, right? Perfect score of 200, 400, they don't consider anything at all, right? So this doesn't matter at all. Do not sneak it in there. A lot of people try to do that, like they want to like brag about themselves. Definitely don't. Okay. That being said, let's talk about the test optional status first, okay? So when should we or not, what scores should we submit, right? It's the next big category as well too. So it's pretty simple for the required and optionals, right? So required and optionals, we typically have a general recommendation. Our team's recommendation when it comes to here is going to be focused on scoring in the 50th percentile or higher, right, of the school. So this is different per school. So if you look it up, just Google school 50 SAT, ACT percentile. They give you a range. We recommend students staying 50. Again, the more the elite the schools, the higher ranked schools, right? Focus on the 75th or percentile or percentile as well too. That's going to be a really solid thing. Of course, the higher the better, right? But something to keep in mind, right, in 2024 and beyond, right, for right now, we'll see what happens in like a few years, but as of this year, next year as well too, keep in mind that test scores falls under academics, right? So when it falls under the academics, you can see how does academics relate to the admissions process, right? So there's three core things that are really important. There's academics, there's activities, and there's the application itself, right? If you've been following us for a while, there is an inequality between these two, right? These are not all equal. However, the activities is not as important as the application or the essay, right? Is probably the most important piece of the entire puzzle. And between these two, this is probably the least, academics is the least important of the three factors itself. Doesn't mean it's not important, just the least important. So when a lot of people spend a lot of time on their test scores, I'm like, you're trying to do the best for one of the least important areas, right? Here in our program, we help students figure out again how to work smart, right, through this entire program, to do an entire journey of college admissions. That means, right, if it's not going to play the biggest role, why spend so much time on it? The reason why I bring this up is that one thing, a big no-no recommendation, right, is there is no need, there is no need to study 6+ months for these exams. I'm seeing some parents tell me, Coach Tony, my child's in 9th grade, we're going to start SAT prep, or my child's in 6th grade, SAT prep. I'm like, no. Let them enjoy life right now. You do not need to prep that early, right? But how long should you prep? How long should you prep is the thing. We typically see 2-3 months is ideal, right? Oops, where's my mouse? Right? 2-3 months is normal of what we see there. And then some of our students have done 1 month as well too. This is more of a cram though, rather than a studying. You're just cramming information and stuff too. 1 month blitz basically is what you're trying to do here. Okay. So now let's figure out between the two tests, right, which test is for you, right? So both of these tests, again, are equivalent in terms of admissions, but your child, like I mentioned, might like one test more than the other test, okay? So between these two tests, at a high level, this is not 100% accurate, but at a high level, the SAT is more for students who are stronger in English, all right? Stronger in English. The ACT is those who are stronger in math, right? That's kind of the general takes there. I also see that students who that's pretty much like a high level, right? Between the two there. Keep in mind that the SAT and ACT, this one will have harder questions, right? But less, right? Harder but less questions. This one will be more but easier questions, right? So that's the other big difference, right? When you look at the exams, the SAT will have a lot less questions than the ACT, but they're harder in general. I think the average time is like 1.5 minutes per question that you have to like do. When it comes to the ACT though, they're easier, but it's quicker. You have less than a minute for every single question if you pace it out correctly. That's gonna be the biggest thing itself. Okay, so the recommendation here is take both practice tests first, right? Well, you take both practice tests first and see which one you do better or enjoy more. Because one test the students gonna like. There's students who like the fast-paced nature of a test, the ACT, for example, right? They might like that one. Some students might like the slower but a little more challenging, but it's not too bad, right? Of the SAT itself. Okay. Something to keep in mind as well too. The SAT is now digital. Digital SAT, so it's going to be on a computer that you guys will take here. The ACT, there is going to be a change in April, right? So keeping that in mind as well too. So if you're taking your ACT this month, next month, it's still the old school ACT, but the new ACT a few changes here. This one, no more science section. That's probably the biggest one. A lot of small ones, but the biggest one is there's no more a science section. Keep in mind the science section is really not about science either. Like you don't actually need to know any science to do well on the science section if you're taking it like this month or next month, right? But it's more about scientific kind of like charts and graphs. It's more of a graph. How good can you read a graph, read a chart? That's pretty much what the science section was, and soon it'll be gone. So it'll be mainly more math and and English is the two things here. Okay. So that's usually the cadence of which one. But again, take both practice tests. The most important thing when you take the practice test, wait, with timing. That is probably the most important piece of all, because at the end of the day, these aren't regular tests. People think they are, like, no, they're not regular tests. These are all standardized timed tests. And that's the biggest thing here. You'll find out that on these exams, you'll learn, if you're like prepping for this, there's more strategies on how do you get by as many questions as you can rather than doing the exact problems. You'll find out like half of the math, you actually don't never do the math. It's like working backwards, process of elimination, these other strategies to get down to the right answer. Same thing with English. It's less doing the actual work. It's more understanding the strategy. So these exams is more of, do you know how to take the test rather than do you know what's on the test, right? Do you know how to take the test versus what is on the test? That's kind of be the big takeaway, I would say, of these two exams compared to all the other tests itself here. Okay. So biggest thing is timing. Timing is very, very, very important. It's per section. So those of you who are doing a practice test, for those who are doing practice tests, a little pro tip, you can, right, break it up per day, per section. What that means is that, let's say the ST has like 4 sections to it. You don't have to take it all 4 at once. You can take the first section, which is like 80 minutes, for example, take that, go through your day. Tomorrow you have a 60-minute session, do that. And then next day, do a 70-minute section, whatever the time limits are for each exam. And if you put together, that is actually really close to your actual score, right? However, if you do the practice test without the timing, it's gonna be really, really off, because the longer you spend on it, the easier you can probably solve problems, and the score is a little skewed, right? But if you just do it per section and you do the score it up, put together, that's pretty rough to what it is. Because again, a lot of students today don't have the time to spend 4 hours on a practice test, right? They can make, but they can break it up to like 3 or 4 hour long chunks. That is definitely doable as well too. Okay, that's that. Next piece here is going to be, so that's which has for you. So now in terms of timing, right? When do we do all this, right? That's another big question for families as well too. So there's 4 grades, right? 10th, 11th, and 12th, right? So in 9th grade, relax. All right. Again, this is the context of a typical student in today's admissions world. Okay. So relax. Here's the unless, right, you're in very advanced math or English, right away off the bat, you're taking calculus BC or something, right? That means, that's probably a reason why you're doing it. Then what I would tell students, take a practice test and see how you do, right? Is the biggest thing as well. Because if you're really, really close to a good score, we should take it right away and be done with it, right? If good, take it and be done, right? This is rare. This is like, out of all the students we have, maybe 1%. Maybe less than that will be the ones who actually would do this, because most students, again, 9th graders, your brain isn't that way to do the test that way too. So most students won't fall in this category. Again, it's that 1% of students who are like just naturally test oriented, test gifted, go for it there, right? But for a lot of you guys in 10th grade, you'll be taking the PSAT in October. Right? That's usually why I take it October as well too. The recommendation is do not study for this exam. Can you study? Sure. Right? Is that the smartest thing to do? No. Right? Why is it not the smartest thing to do? Because because it means nothing. You get a perfect score in that exam, they give you a high five, or someone gives you a high five. Someone might give you a cookie. That's it, right? Nothing really comes out of getting a perfect score on this exam at all, right? So what's the point, right? But I tell students, right, come into this test without studying, because I want to see your test score, no studying, right? Is what it is. Same logic. If it's good, right, we're gonna take it and be done. Is the thing there. Take it because the PSAT is very closely related to the actual SAT itself there. Okay. Now, the next thing is going to be the 11th grade, right? 11th grade, you take the PSAT again in October, right? Two groups of people, right? Group number one, actually, if really good, right? Take the SAT and be done. Take the SAT and be done. Okay. But again, small, that's like 2% of people who do that, right? Most of us aren't going to fall in that bucket. Most of us will fall in this bucket, right? PSC 11th grade, two groups. Either you are scoring close to national merit scores. So what national merit is, that's a scholarship tied to the PSAT itself. So if you are a national merit, every state has their own cutoff. So look up your state, look at the cutoff. You'll see that for me, I'm in California. We have a pretty high cutoff, right? Really, really high as well, too. As a result of that, that means the student needs to score that high or above. So if you're close, meaning if in 10th grade, no studying, you're close by like 100 points, right? If you're close, I would say like 100 points away, then I would study, right? Study for the PSAT, because if you can get it, parents, that's a full ride opportunity if your child gets it. However, if they're not close, right, over 100 points, do not study as well too, right? Do not study. Can you? You can, but it's not going to be the payoff's not going to be worth it really for you there, right? So again, that's the biggest thing here when it comes to the PSC national merit. Now, however, the ST-ACT though, right? This is going to be in winter, right? So now this falls under should I take it, should I not? So let's take it before we even go this way. Let's talk about should I or not, right? So a few categories here. First off is if you have schools that are test required, yes, take it 100%. No matter what, you have to take it. You have to do well. You have to send it off, right? Is the thing. The big one is if all of your schools are test blind, no, skip it altogether. If you're only applying to, let's say, UC schools and Cal States and nothing else, don't waste your time. Don't waste your energy. Just focus only on everything else in your app, right? However, a lot of you guys will fall in this bucket if you have some schools, right, that are test optional, right? Then it gets a little more tricky, right? It gets a little more tricky here. What we want to do is we want to aim at the 50th percentile or higher. So now going back to our logic earlier, right? This is, yes, submit your scores. If you don't have 50% or higher, then our team recommends don't send it in as well. Does it hurt you send in? Not really. It's just, yeah, send an extra report, cost money, does extra work that way too, right? So that 50% of Ohio, again, the more competitive schools, the more elite schools, like the top 20, 50, 100 schools, right? You want to aim for 75th percentile or higher, then yes, send those in too, okay? So when it comes to the SEAC, you're going to do this in winter and spring. Typically, a lot of our students take their first exam. Their first exam is going to be in March and April, right? That's usually where the first batch of schools are, which means what? You start studying in January, right? So I asked, we're recording this live to a group of folks right now. We have over 100 people here. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Juniors, right? If you're a junior right now watching this live in November, right? In like 2 months from now, probably plan to start studying for the SAT if, again, you fall under test required, fall under optional. My schools are going to be applying for them, right? That's going to be the big thing there. Start joining that way. It gives you 2-3 months, right? 2-3 months to study, right? Then, right, most students on their, again, a group of students will do really, really well, right? Once they're like, I'm done, I'm good. If you didn't do well, which again is most students won't do well, you're going to take the second exam, right? Typically like 1 to 2 months after, right? This is your retake, right? Study for the retake, right? Takes about a month or two for the retake itself there. That's where you see the next highest increase in scores. I do not recommend a third or fourth one unless the student really feels like, no, I messed up twice. I know I can do better the third one. Go for it. But the issue is that with your third exam, it's going to be the law of diminishing returns. What that means is that as you do more and more and more of this, right, there's less and less score increases. So the biggest increase of scores is going to be between 1 and 2, right? Between test number 1, between test number 2, you're going to have your highest increase there. However, after that, right? After that, you might still keep going, but it's gonna be such a small thing. You gotta think about the inputs and the outputs, right? You gotta think about the inputs, right? The inputs and then the outputs, right? How much are you putting in to get how much you're putting out, right? Inputs is hours. How many hours are you spending studying for this for an extra 1, 2, 3 points for ACT, another 100, 200, 300 points for the SAT might not be a huge difference. That is not worth it to do it. There's other things, again, going back to our inequality, right? The academics is probably not the most important thing you want to focus on. You want to focus on activities or other things, right? That's going to be the big thing there. So going back, right? Going back here, that's gonna be the big, going back here. The first or second time, and you should be good. Some people will take it longer. Some will take it a third time. Some people take it in August, senior year. Some seniors taking it now as well too. So again, can you? You can. And if you are doing it later, yeah, this is 12th grade now, right? You may be doing it summer, end of summer, summer. If you are doing it, I'll put a question mark there if you are doing it as well too. And then be careful about, not careful, be aware of EAED deadlines, right? So some of you guys who are going to do early action, early decision, and you're doing this and they are test required school, for example, keep in mind there is a deadline by when you have to take your exam and have to submit it as well too. So keeping that in mind, things like the October testing is like the last one you can submit. Again, the regular ones you have to like December, right? But the early ones, again, you shouldn't be waiting that long. You should be doing hopefully in junior year itself. And again, now that the admission is kind of like stabilizing at, yep, we're going to go back to test required, or we're going to stay optional, or we're going to stay blind, you have a better idea. The last 5 years have been kind of all over the place. So the poor students the last few years who are kind of jumping in and out, should I not? But if you are a current junior right now, I look at your college list and see, all right, cool, I should be starting to plan for the ST or not for the SC. I think that's the big takeaway here. Okay. That being said, let's figure out how do we study, right? So how do we study for these exams? So there is one strategy, by the way. So me doing test prep for several years, did a bunch of this stuff. There is a trick. There's a trick to how to study for these exams, right? So there's a few. Let me talk about the high level first, and we'll talk about the exam itself. So there's a few ways. I think the limitation is resources, right? Budget, right? I would say as well too, because right, there's free options out there, right? Khan Academy is probably one of the best things I recommend for students who are trying to study for free, right? KhanAcademy.com is amazing. Khan Academy, for those who haven't seen it yet, I'll give you guys a little teasers, right? Khan Academy is a website that is partnered up directly with College Board. Oops, I think it's .org, not .com. .org, my apologies, right? .org, right? Sal Khan is the owner as well too. I met him, super awesome guy. He partnered with the SAT. Where is it? Here, the SAT as well too. And you can learn every single thing, right, about the SAT on here, right? You guys can poke it later on, but KhanAcademy.com, it's offered with a partnership with the College Board themselves. All the lessons are on there. There's practice problems on there as well too. You can use that. If your limit is free, you can do that. Another website you can go to is College Board. I think they're also .org, right? The people who actually write the actual test themselves, College Board, they also have some free resources for you, some practice tests, some like guides on you to kind of figure it out. Some more modern ways as well too. Social media, so YouTube, TikTok, right? Are two that I see a lot. There's tons of YouTube tutorials on what you need to be doing. On TikTok, I have friends who run the accounts like this where they teach students how to do certain problems, right? On the SAT or the ACT as well too. So again, follow them. They do like a daily video or a weekly video. You can always tune in and learn more there. Okay. So first one is if it's budget free, that's the big thing there, right? Next bucket is if you have like limited resources, right? Limited resources, I say like $100-ish, right? If you have like $100-ish to play with for this exam, a few options for you. The first one is actually the College Board book. Prep book, right? So there's tons of test prep books out there. Amazon, so you guys can see what it is, right? There's tons and tons of books out there. The ones you guys can look at, like Kaplan Review, you can look at Barron's, there's a lot of them. The one I like is the official one, the official tests from College Board themselves. The people who write your exams they made a prep book for you. So again, I highly recommend using them. They also have access to practice problem. You see this book is $20 as well too. That's one option to look into there, right? So then, and there's a bunch of other like more affordable programs. The company that I used to work at is called Magoosh. That's what they're known for, right? Affordable test prep. That's incredible for families there. So magoosh.com, you can check them out. Here, magoosh.com, SAT or ACT as well too. You can kind of see what they offer, right? They have they made the website different. There you go, right? So for them, they have lesson plans for you guys. They have an app. They have lesson videos. They have practice problems. They have tutors. That's what I used to do. You emailed in. I was one of the people who emailed students back their stuff as well too. They have study schedules kind of created for you. They use AI to kind of predict your score as well too. Really, really awesome product. It's like less than $100, or if it's not less than $100, I actually have a coupon code to make it less than $100. So if anyone's interested, just slide in my DMs. I can get you guys that code, and you guys can use them. I think it's like a 1-year access for like less than $100 there. You can use them, take and study there as well too. Okay, and then you have the pricier ones, right? You have the pricier ones. These I would say is like the private tutoring, right? This one usually comes in like group or one-on-one. So when it comes to these types of services, right, I think it's a matter of weighing out the options, right? Weighing out the options, how, if we're applying to a test required school, we need to have a score. And that's one of the schools that you really, really want to get into as well too, but your score is not near the 50th or 75th percentile. Perhaps like a private tutor or a tutoring class or a tutoring cohort or something, they might be able to help you get to that score that you need is the thing there, right? So you guys just weighing out the options of that here. Do I think it's for everyone? Not really. I don't think everyone needs this. Again, it's a very strategic move. Should I not do it? Again, it always depends on what's your initial score. So anywhere you do, regardless of what resources you guys do, right? Biggest thing, where did I say it? Take a practice test first. Where did I take it? Take a practice test first, right? I think that's probably one of the biggest things you guys can do. Anyone can do that anytime you want, right? So definitely do that so you know where you're at, right? And then once you know where you're at, you'll know here's where I want to go. Then you can figure out the rest of the puzzle. But if you don't know where you're at, I'm like, I don't know. You might need to study just a week, a month. Maybe you got to maximize all 3 months is the biggest thing there. Okay, so that's I would recommend in terms of different budgets. Private tutoring, there's tons and tons out there. You guys can Google and search. We don't have any paid partnerships with anyone there, so definitely feel free to do anything you guys want as well. We buy all of our coaching families, Magoosh. I work there. I know it does really well. It's how I trust in them for our families as well too. But again, you guys can look into other sources as well. If you're doing private tutoring, and there's online ones, there's in-person ones, what format works best for your child is the biggest thing, right? But here's the ultimate strategy, right? Here's the strategy, the study strategy for you all, right? So whether you use a tutor, whether you use anything, I bet you every one of these people use a very similar study structure. That's the one that I recommend to our students to do as well, okay? So when I was a tutor for Magoosh, we always said one line, right? This was the line to say, and if you think about it, it's very, very true, right? If you could never, make the same mistake twice, right? You only need 3 practice tests to get a perfect score, right? That's the magical line I used to say in a bunch of different emails to a bunch of different students as well too, right? If you can never make the same mistake twice, you only need 3 practice tests to get the perfect score. Why? First thing, I kind of teased it earlier, the SAT and the ACT are standardized tests. What does that mean? There's no pop quizzes. There's no surprise questions, right? Every question they'll ask you, right? They tell you ahead of time, right? So you know exactly what to expect. Nothing's a shock. Nothing's like, wait, I didn't know that. No, you did know that because I have given you the information that I'm going to test you on this. And that's the problem that shows up on the exam itself. They even tell you the breakdown, right, of how often a question comes up, right, as well too. Again, it's literally standardized. It's not like a random made up test. It's all exactly. That's why, again, if you retake it, a lot of students, it's just the confidence, right? Hey, I get it now. And when you come back second, you do a lot better because it's more, you're just missing the confidence factor. But the test problems, again, different numbers, probably different order of problems, but the problems itself are similar, AKA they are standardized, right? So the biggest thing for you to take about is this here. Do not make the same mistake twice. Again, everything is shown to you. Everything tells you, hey, if I tell you 1 + 1 = 2, right? And I ask you guys, all right, John, who's here, right? What's 1 + 1? You tell me 2. Awesome, cool. I see here Evelyn, who's here in the chat. Evelyn, what's 1 + 1? You tell me 2. Awesome. So next time you see 1 + 1 on the exam, is gonna be 2, right? Is the thing there. So going back here, do not make the same mistake twice. Here is the magic strategy on how to do really well on the exams, right? Step 1, take a full-length practice test, right? You'll be able to see the bulk of all the questions that may or may not come up on your actual test there, right? Then step number 2, here's the key. Review every single question you got wrong, right? Every single question you got wrong, understand why you got that question wrong. Because they're gonna ask you the same question again twice. Because again, think about it this way. There are students out there, Coach Tony, I've been doing 20 practice tests. My score is still the same. And I'm like, okay, show me your answer sheet. And the students have the same questions wrong every single exam. I'm like, how do you expect to get better if you can't get that same like logarithm question correct, right? Instead, study, learn the logarithm, right? And retake it. And now when you see that same logarithm question, you're good. Hey, you're messing up the grammar right here, right? Understand that if it's a end of a sentence, use a period, capital letter or something, right? And do it again. And you won't get that same mistake twice and same mistake wrong twice. Something to make you guys a little happier and easier, right? Back in the day, right? Vocabulary was a huge component of the SAT, ACT. Today, way less vocabulary. There's still some words. There's still some words that you need to know, right? But right, there's a lot less vocabulary. And the vocabulary that they usually come up now, they're calling it college words or some other fancy name, but like words that you will see in college, right? Every day. That's all. Again, it's still some difficult words, but again, not like it used to be random words that like you had to know like a dictionary to understand. Now it's a lot easier, right? So this one, review every single question you get wrong. I tell students, right, keep an error log, right? Error log as well too. What an error log is what did you go wrong, right? Hey, I wasn't able to find this part in a paragraph. Cool. Explain your thought process. Here's what I thought. Learn it. Go back, learn the resources. Again, Khan Academy, right? If you have no budget, Khan Academy gives video lessons on every single topic you'll come up with. Learn the material, come back. I learned blah, 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 blah. Next time, what traps did you fall into? Because again, these tests are not the skills, it's the test of the test as well too. Got it. Boom, boom, boom. Next time I will make sure I blank, 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 right? You do all that work. This should take you easily, right? 3-4 times the time it took for the exam. So if it took you 3 hours to do a full-length practice test, you should be spending 10, 15 hours, right? Studying and reviewing. This is where your score will increase the most. And then if you did it correctly, step number 3, take a full-length practice test, right? If you follow the logic of do not make the same mistake twice, the questions you got wrong on your first exam, you won't have the same mistakes wrong on your second exam, right? And step 4, guess what we're doing after we finish the exam and we score it? You review every single question you got wrong. People think it's more complicated than this. No, this is literally studying 101, right? For exam, you do enough work on the prompts, you're going to run out of questions to kind of learn from, right? So that's going to be the biggest thing here. Review a question wrong, especially the ones you got wrong again from the first exam. That means you didn't learn it. You lied to yourself. You said, I got it. You didn't get it. We did not get it, right? Because we couldn't get it right as well, too. So that's going to be the biggest thing here is to make sure that you take practice tests, full length review, practice again, full length review. And again, like I mentioned 3 times, right? 5 full length practice test, review every question, 5, 6, and then you should be solid. You should be scoring quite high at this point as well. Because again, if you're spending a lot of time, it should fall into here, and then you should be going over and doing a lot of the review, the learning. Maybe they're like, hey, I never learned this already. Cool. I never learned unit circles. I never learned this type of sentence structure. Cool. Go back and learn it, right? Then go back as well too. So that's how you do it. Again, those who are cramming, this is how you cram, right? If you're taking the time, if you have the full 3 months, I would not start here. So if you have time, so I'm going to add for those who have time right now, I would review all of the material first, right? And do practice questions along the way, right? So however you do practice problems, some of the, like Magoosh has practice problems as you're learning. So you can go through that. The test books, right? The prep books has practice problems in between each section. You can do those so you can do the skill, right? Keeping in mind, right? You learn by reading and learn by doing. So there's 2 things. Can't just read a book and be like, I got it, right? You got to read it and then do it. You're like, ooh, I did not get it. And you go back and understand, right? Biggest thing is this. No matter who you go to for parents who have SAT tutors, to look at how they study. This is literally how every single person studies, right? If you're using a tutor, if you're using someone, they all do some variation of this, either some learning and then some practice testing and some reviewing of like, here's what you got wrong. Let's review that. That's going to be the big takeaway of this exam. This applies to the SAT. This applies to the ACT. And then that's going to be the biggest thing here. Again, with timing. That's the big one. You can just take the practice test, but it doesn't mean anything. Make sure you have it with the time because it is a time test at the end of the day. That being said, we have a few questions that came in. We'll do some Q&A in a little bit as well too. But right before you guys go, I have some freebies for you guys. If you guys want some freebies, let me know. All right. We have 2 freebies for you guys. The first one, like I mentioned, the best way to do this is do practice tests. I compiled digital SAT practice tests for you. There's a few. You guys scroll through. Scrolling through, right? With answers. So you guys know, and like explanations. So you guys know. If you guys want this, let me know in the chat. If you guys want this practice test. right? Is number one. Or maybe you guys are more of the ACT folks. Boom. ACT practice test. Ooh, look at that, right? As well, too, right? So if you guys are interested in the SAT or the ACT, it's free. Go ahead and text the word SAT to this number is number one, or text the word ACT to at the same number, and then I can go ahead and send it to you guys in a little bit after this call. So you guys can probably give me. I have a few more calls after, so give me a little bit afterwards. If you watch this from the past, from the future, just text as well too. If I forget, remind me what these are. But text me SAT to 949-298-6234 for the SAT practice test guide, ACT, that one. And for any of our new families who are interested, who aren't working with us yet, because little teasers, little spoilers, I don't think I've announced this officially yet. So let this be the public record for everyone. We have coaching programs where we help our families with their college admissions process from A to Z, help you with your college, your career, your major, your class schedules, your classes, your activities, passion projects, your applications, your essays, your interviews, everything from A to Z for a family. Next year, 2025, we are doing something we haven't done in many, many years. So we're bringing it back because the last 4 years, it's been like a lot of test blind schools, test optional schools. But because of the rise in the SAT being test required, we are officially bringing back the SAT and ACT cohorts inside our coaching program. What that means is that our coaching families, you guys will get access, right, to a live SAT or ACT class. We're relaunching this in January as well. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know. I'll be sending more details. So hang on tight. Don't message me at once. I'll be sending more information on that in December. So keep an eye out for your emails. And for anyone else not in our coaching programs, if you guys are interested, right? Just to see if we can help you guys out first, I encourage you guys to book a free 15-minute coaching call with our team so we can go ahead and see where you're at, give you some recommendations first. We're not going to sell you on that call. There's nothing to sell you on that call. Give you some help first. If you guys are interested in our programs, you can talk to our team. They'll set up a second call with you, and then they'll help you out with that there, okay? If you're interested in that, just text the word coach, same number, 949-298-6234. Our team will go ahead and set you up with a 15-minute call. Might be with me, might be with someone on our team, and we'll go ahead and just help you out first before we do anything about programs or services, okay? That being said, let's go ahead and dive into some Q&A mode for you guys today. So let's go some questions and answers, right? So first off, can we share this document as well? So for our coaching families, I'll go ahead and drop it. I'll drop it in our private Discord for coaching families, private Discord for coaching families. For everyone else, this will be available in the replay. So if you're watching this from the replay, it's probably down below. And for everyone joining us live, our team's going to edit this video. And if you register for this call, they'll go ahead and send it to you guys in like a day or two as well too, right? Will be sent out via replays, right? Next one, the science section will continue. It will be optional, shortened question. That's right. Thank you for the clarification as well too. A lot of things are going optional as well. The other added tip, by the way, I have here, the added tip here is definitely reach out to your colleges and see what they want or prefer. This was a big thing that happened back in 20 for the year, right? When there's a bunch of changes over the test the last few years as well too. The biggest thing is that you want to ask your schools, hey, the essays went optional, right? So for a lot of schools, the essays went optional. Some colleges actually still wanted it. Hey, I do want the essays. I think as of now, most schools don't need it as well too. But I would definitely reach out to the schools you're interested in and ask. Keep in mind, you probably don't know where you're going to officially apply to yet. That's why it's important to kind of know your college list as soon as you can, just to have that master list to go ahead and reach out to the different schools and be like, hey, What's your policy? What do you guys think about this? What should I slash we be doing here on the exams? Do you guys want the optional stuff? And they will let you know, right? The schools are very easy. They're like, yep, we want it, or nope, no need as well too. Keeping that in mind, I would definitely reach out to the school because it is a very school by school and is also year by year, meaning if they say something one year, I've seen schools the last few years, they've been switching off every single year as well too. So again, definitely reach out to the school and say, hey, I am this year, so juniors 2026, what's the policy when we apply? They should know, or they'll say, hey, we'll get back to you in a few months as well too. Okay. Next one, can you figure out how to do the score percentile, right? How to submit the score for a percentile. So this is, you can Google it, right? So Google this real fast. So then just Google this. I would look up college, right? So college, ACT or SAT, right? Percentiles, right? And it'll tell you, you'll see it, every school will be like, this is our school, this is the range, this is the 50th percentile, this is the 75th percentile, this and that as well too. This is our recommendation. Again, you can submit whatever score you want, just for our like coaching families, right? Our general rule of thumb on this is you want to aim for the 50th percentile, if not higher. We've seen the last few years, it's helped our students with that kind of benchmark. So definitely aim for that here. Okay. She was asked again for the resources. Again, if you guys want to go ahead and text me. SAT for the SAT practice test here, the ACT for the ACT practice test. And if you're interested in a 15-minute session, go ahead and text the word coach for that there. Awesome. Perfect. I think we have finished all the Q&A. So that's pretty much it on this session. Thanks everyone for joining me. Hopefully that helped clarify a few things on the SAT ACT format. And I'll see you guys in the next session.